In the digital world, where spaces have become less and less bound by geography, the center expands to cover those which were once in the peripheries. Perhaps even before the pandemic, the internet changed the landscape by which art is viewed. But the pandemic accelerated how art events transformed the internet into a gallery, museum, event space, etc. With people being forced by social distancing measures to find connections online, the art world has become more inclusive. Doors opened to artists who could not afford to uproot their lives and transfer to Manila. Venues were created for in-depth dialogues in topics that zoomed in on the weakness and highlighted the strength of art communities in the regions. And therefore, one must ask, is this the beginning of the art's inevitable democratization?
Tita Imelda, his eldest sister, shared a striking account. In the past, tubig ulan was collected for disinfecting the image after procession, while a pulang bato was used for fair-skin furbishing. Ray, a devotee, added that this type of cleansing was essential to protect against the habagat's harmful glow. But even as its material intimacies had been conveyed, the image was cached in 2020. In this age, to painstakingly wrap the body and sanitize one's flesh against an invisible agent have become requisites for welfare. The quarantine's further provisions came into play when San Jose's basket of tools was purloined, foreshadowing the pressing crisis. How now could the obrero make an ample?
More than a full year under the militarized lockdown and well beyond the 1 million mark of confirmed cases, art spaces have either reopened with strictly observed measures or uncomfortably migrated online as our only plausible hope for recovery is another 2-year wait for herd immunity. Gallerists, curators, and artists have held numerous talks on how the art industry should adapt post-pandemic, yet too few dare tackle the delicate topic of why the global art market should even be prioritized in a crisis. Some consider COVID-19 as the reason for our current socio-political turmoil and recession, but this is not a classic case of cause and effect, when the reality is that the virus can only be credited for exposing a system already in a state of decay. After all, a society built on capitalism, especially one run by a macho-fascist government, dwindles in the face of disaster as capitalism itself serves as the root of the problem. Leslie de Chavez expounds on this idea through his recent show, A Lonely Picket in the Balcony, mounted in the art space of Silver Lens Galleries. The exhibition wastes no time with sugarcoating. Through installation and painting, de Chavez points out the many parallels between the Marcos dictatorship and the incumbent regime helmed by President Rodrigo Duterte. How both strongmen exploited the nation's religiosity into subjecting them under oppressive conditions, and how they employed government efforts as spectacles to distract the public from their corruption, the former having basked in the grandeur of highbrow art through the institutionalization of the cultural center of the Philippines.
The screen allows for the tangible to give way to the intangible. Institutions that have heavily depended on the authority of a physical space are now compelled to distill objects to its significance in the processes inside it. This dematerialization happens whenever new media technology arrives. When printing arrived in Europe, artists earned prestige and profit from selling prints as much as paintings. The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci, a pop icon in Filipino homes, was made preeminently famous by its print version from an engraver named Rafael Morgan. The painting might not have reached universal fame if the print did not bring its intangible essence outside of Italy. Similarly today, Migrating an artwork to the screen can work for the benefit of the original artwork, expanding its social and economic value and even generating drive to see the actual work. The screen opens new ways of monetizing artworks for both the artists and the owner, all while giving more people access to beauty otherwise unnoticed. While the experience of material art can never be substituted, the screen now demands its own legitimacy. The good thing that comes from acknowledging this crisis is that it creates alterity from what exists, and if assessed and decided upon carefully, it is possible to lead towards a culture of generosity wherein more people can gain from the enchantments of art.
"2020 is a year we all will never forget. Plagued with crisis, natural, political, and for many, personal. Interestingly, artist-run initiatives, spaces, and residencies also sprouted during this time. One such space is the Linangan Art Residency in Alfonso, Cavite. The pandemic crisis has fortified Linangan's assertion that artists should define a third option where they can create art and engage audiences beyond the limitations of market and institutional systems. Its program cultivates the vital link between art and culture by emphasizing on art production that is rooted in and affirmative of community life. Aside from honing studio techniques and conducting in-depth art history classes, resident artists are mentored through show and tell sessions in which artists explain and critique each other's works. Their daily routine is also designed to develop discipline, responsibility, and a sense of community. Residents and staff work together in preparing shared meals, doing house chores, cleaning the river, and tending the organic garden. The Linangan is a continuing realization of an envisioned future as a collective. It is an alternative school and community where artists learn with and from each other and develop a bond that translates into collective identity. It is a platform for insightful social analysis to create conscious and empowered art making. In it, and through it, creating art is making beliefs concrete. Art is living culture, being embodied.
I missed the cold breeze on my face. The air from the mountainside was always refreshing before a face mask and face shield blocked it. Our connections and communities are like this now, as filtered as the air we breathe. The art world has taken for granted the energetic crowd in exhibit openings, spirited debates in workshops, and lively conversations in conferences. We even crave mundane things such as drinks, food, and chit-chat. We've had countless online exhibitions, Zoom talks, and digital content to keep the art world going. Necessary, but are they enough? What else is there now? Project Space Pilipinas and Tukban Artist Guild are artist groups and collaborations that create a path forward in Lukban, Quezon. PSP takes an outward approach and forms connections locally and globally. They invite contemporary artists to exhibit and construct programs for the community. Historical revisionism, extrajudicial killings, environmental issues, and economic struggles are some points of discourse that they encourage in their space. On the other hand, LAG is the latest iteration of a continually evolving art group in Lukban. They have always worked towards establishing a space for local artists to create and exhibit. The question of support and sustainability is a vital point for the survival of local artists who are outside the mainstream art world.
May dalawang dimensyon ang sining sa pangkabuuan. Una, bahagi ito ng material na kultura. At ikalawa, karunungang nakalapat sa pamumuhay at adaptasyon sa geographical at ekologikal na kondisyon. May mga ritual at pagdiriwang tayo para sa pag-aani, paglalayag, pangingisda at iba pa. Gayon din sa pagdadakila sa iba't ibang siklo ng buhay at galaw ng kalikasan. Huwag nating kalimutan ang espiritual na aspekto ng sining. Muli tayo makipag-ugnayan sa kalikasan at mga tagapagbantay ng lahat ng buhay. Higit sa lahat, pinagtitibay ng paglikha ang mismong pakikipag-ugnayan natin sa ating kapwa at komunidad. Bilang paghuli, sa pagsulong natin sa pag-aaral ng sining, huwag nating kaligtaang pangalagaan ang buhay ng ating mga manlilikha. Ipaglaban natin ang kanilang karapatan, lalo na mga nabibilang sa pambansang minorya na dumadanas ng matinding karahasan, katulad na lamang ng pag-agaw sa mga lupang ninuno, pagsira sa kanilang tahanan, giyera at iba pa. Tandaan natin na ang mga manlilikha ay hindi lamang obheto ng ating pag-aaral, ngunit sila ang nangangalaga sa hiyas pangkultura ng ating bayan.
Marami pang mga hindi kasiguraduhan sa kasalukuyan, ngunit hindi may tatanggi na nandyan lang sa paligid ang ating sariling atin mula sa ating kinakain. Mga monumento na nadadaanan, mga kwentong naipapasa at nababasa, mga mural sa bawat pader at iba pa na hindi natin nabibigyan ng pansin pero matagal na palang nandyan. Ito ang kultura at mga sining na humuhubog sa atin at kung mapapahalagahan natin ay magagamit natin ng maayos sa hinaharap. Kapag nanalo na tayo sa pandemya kung saan nakatanggal na ang ating face mask, marahil mas makakahingang maigi ang lahat kapag nakapagproseso at nakapagnilay-nilay ang bawat isa sa tulong ng ating kultura at mga sining. Nagdesisyon ka munang magmuni-muni sa likuran ng monumento kung saan nakalagay ang kartilya ng katipunan. Bago ka umuwi palungsod Quezon ay ilang beses mong binasa ang isa sa katungkulan na huwag sayangin ang panahon, ang yamang nawalay maaaring magbalik, ngunit ang panahong nagdaay hindi na may babalik. Isang gabay kung paano ko siguro mananabigit ang kasalukuyang krisis.
Hindi ako fan ng small talks. Mahaba akong mag-reply. Tinaguan ko ang tanong na kumusta sa pagsisimula ng Zumosine period. Mangyaring sabihin lang agad-agad ng walang paligoy-ligoy, ng walang mga paimbabaw na pangungumusta. Kung ano-anong mga ganap sa loob ng isang taon para lang manatiling matino sa panahong nililigalig tayo ng buang na daigdig. Nakakalokang isipin kung saan ka lulugar sa pagitan ng pagtepik sa balikat dahil ayos lang yan basta't buhay ka sa ngayon o sa pag-uumpisang aralin ang mga bagong silang na mga agos. Habang wala pang matino, bukod sa mga pantasya na mga pangsalba sa sariling katunuan ng mga proyekto, humanap kami ng mga pag-uubusan ng ekstra-ekstrang oras, talino at lakas. Ambag na rin sa pagtutulak sa natapilok na ekonomiya. Si Tita Cars, na bukod sa pagtitinda ng spaghetti sa kanilang village, ay nagbabato rin sa akin ng mga racket na dapat pagpasahan ng resume.